Ladies and gentlemen, dreamers and doers, seekers of purpose and fulfillment, welcome to Passion on Purpose, the podcast that sets your soul on fire and ignites the spark within you. I'm your host, Steph Hilfer, and I'm beyond thrilled you're here. Passion on Purpose features leaders, experts, and sometimes me on center stage. We put the spotlight on visionaries, entrepreneurs, leaders, experts, and everyday heroes to share their journey of self-discovery, enthusiasm, and unwavering determination. We'll explore how they use their passion and purpose to fuel their brand. Alongside our leaders, we'll provide practical tips, actionable advice, and wisdom from our experts across various fields. So if you're ready to unleash your inner fire, shake off the doubts and insecurities, and pursue a life of All right, guys, we are back with another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. And today's episode is an expert episode. And I'm so excited. You guys know that the kind of shift of gears in season 2 was that I wanted to bring on experts. And so with season 3, I've just upped the game. And not only have I upped the game on the type of experts I want to bring onto the show, I'm really tying the experts into things that I'm geeking out about, things that are important to me. So, maybe getting into some health stuff, maybe getting into fitness stuff, definitely talking about entrepreneurial stuff, hence our guest today. So I'm just really excited. The expert segments are such an exciting part of the show. And I hope and know that the intention for them is that you guys walk away with true value, true tidbits that you can apply to your business, life, etc. immediately. I love our leader episodes too, right? The motivation, inspiration, and things that bring is great. But here, I want you guys to be taking notes, getting ready to apply some things to your life and business immediately, because I know they're going to change and rock your world. So with all of that said, I am so excited. This is episode 90, Experts on Center Stage. We have Sara Dann. And Sara is someone who I don't even know how to say this. I gleaned off of her. And I know this is such a funny thing because as you will hear from this episode, Sara is just going to say it as it is. Like there's no sugarcoating with Sara. And so for years, I was one of those people who just gleaned off of her, kind of, I guess, freely, right? Just kind of like sucking off of all of the amazing things that she shared. And I got so much value for so long. And we're going to talk about this, but then I slowly just started getting into her world, bite-sized little purchases and little offers and little programs. And I don't say little to mean them. I just mean, I think a lot of times it's challenging to dive in on something. And so when you have an easier way to enter someone's world, we got an easy way. So it's exactly the path I've gone, but my life and my business has been changed with you, Sara. So thank you for all of that. And you guys are going to get that today too. So Sara, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sara, on the expert episodes, I want to make sure you guys listeners know where we're kind of going. So Sara is an expert in so many different things, but the 3 areas that I want to talk about today are mindset, sales, and offers. And I really want you guys to stick around because there are a lot of coaches out there that do mindset coaching. And I guess I just want to say the word fluff, but it's not. Just trust me, stick around. Sara is the kind of coach that you want into your life. If you listen to the show, if you listen to me, then you want Sara in your life. So mindset, sales, and offers is the direction we want to go. We're going to keep it pretty free form on that way. So first off, I want to dive right into the non-fluffy fluff of mindset. You have this beautiful title, multiple titles, but you have game changer, authenticity advocate, and empire builder. And for my world, right, this authenticity advocate is so amazing to have like a title and a term behind it, because so many people struggle to just recognize who they are and then actually live who they are. And in the branding world, that's everything. That's what we need to do. And so tell me a little bit about authenticity advocate. Like, what does that title and term mean to you?
I think that authenticity is a really difficult concept, right? Like I heard somebody say one time that nobody has to learn how to be authentic. And my thing that I said back to them was like, I think it's more about unlearning, right? Because in my experience of working with thousands of women over the years, I find that over and over again, so many, especially business owners, as soon as they want an outcome like the sale, authenticity kind of goes out the window. They think that they have to be somebody else. They have to say things the right way. They have to do things according to this coach or this person. And they lose themselves so much instead of just being anchored in who they are, who they've always been in the first place. And this has been such a struggle for me, but I think it's been such a beautiful experience of coaching and being able to see so many women ditch themselves like from the outside, and then being able to see so much more clearly about how we come back to home and say the things we really want to say and do the things we really want to do. And so, with what all of us are doing, if we're not doing it in this way that's aligned to who we actually are, what's the point? Right? Like, what is the actual point? And so it's a really fun thing for me to be able to kind of like strip my clients, if you will, like kind of rip away the stories and the fears and just really get down to what they want to say, what they want to do, and how do they create that.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things that you could give listeners is, how did you start to strip away this assumption of what you should be and started to tap into the true authentic you?
I feel like the biggest turning point of my life period was, the time that I talk about often, which is early 2017. I went through this horrible breakup where I was cheated on, humiliated. Like it was a really, really, really painful experience. And in that, I wasn't showing up in my business. I wasn't doing anything but like sitting on the couch and crying for a few months there. And finally, when I got back into actually building my business, the way that I went about doing that was doing live videos in my Facebook group at the time. And I was doing them every single day. And that first one, I was stiff. I was uncomfortable. I was trying to get it right. I was trying to make sure that everybody liked me. But I was also giving myself permission to say the things that I believed. And I don't know how I had like the nerve to do that back then, but there was that piece of it that I allowed for whatever reason. And I always call it the Tinkerbell effect, because it's this thing where, 4 people were probably on that video that first day, but they were clapping for me. They were like, I needed to hear this. I needed to feel this. And that makes you want to do it the next day. And then there's 5 people, and then there's 6 people. And I feel like I credit so much of me being able to come out of my shells, if you will, in so many ways, is because of being able to really build a community around me based on what I believed, based on what I felt like they needed. And again, like I gave to them, but they also gave me permission to be more of myself. And I think that's been like the greatest gift, as fluffy as that sounds, but it really has been when it comes to just building a business.
Yeah. I guess I'm interested too, because with the breakup, when you leaned in right after you got over some of the initial, shocks, grief, all of the words that go on with that, and then you leaned on your community, what made you then feel like, I'm just gonna be fucking me? Where was it something to do with the breakup, where it was like, were you feeling like you were shape shifting and feeling like you weren't being able to be that? Or was it just I got nothing to lose at this point? Or like, where was that? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I don't think it was very conscious. It was more
Mhm.
like, I'm from Jersey, right? Like I curse from time to time, as you know, and I'm saying that sarcastically because I curse quite a bit. But back then, I have to be a business owner, right? Like I'm going to show up and be professional. And that first time I let an F-bomb fly and like somebody's like, I love that you curse, or I love that you said it this way. And it's like, oh, I'm going to curse 2 times, the next video. And it just allowed me to kind of, again, turn up the dial little by little on who I was always anyway. But again, I had that like literal validation and permission to keep doing it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you were stifled at all in your previous relationship?
Oh my God. Like stifled isn't the word.
Understatement.
Yeah, just I was an entirely different human being. I was living a life I did not ultimately want to live. I didn't understand it at that point. I
Yeah.
thought it was good enough. It was fine. Like I was not to say this, I hope nobody takes this in a negative way, but I was with somebody who had 2 young sons who, I loved, but I was making breakfast and lunch at 6 a.m. and, picking kids up from school. And again, not that there's anything wrong with that life, but it was not the life that I wanted. And so I was a shell of a person. I had completely abandoned not even abandoned. I hadn't realized the dreams that I had for myself yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one other thing that's interesting to me, and I I think we've talked about this before in some of our intimate times is I don't want to say this because it's going to sound bad, but sometimes I envy the like rags to riches stories, right? Not that this is that, but sometimes I envy the like, I had this horrible breakup and I had this epiphany of like, I need to be me, or I was poor and didn't have a roof over my head. So I had to have that grind to get it done. And I'm blessed to have the beautiful life that I have. And I, take a lot of credit for that, but I'm also very blessed. But at the same time, sometimes those epiphanies, those moments, those lights of clarities don't come, I say easily, but there's a lot of hard with that, right? So I'm recognizing that. So what do you share? What's a tip you share around authenticity, advocation, and mindset for yourself? If A, you're not going through something like that, or B, you don't want to wait for the ball to drop. You just want to take control now after today's episode and like make some shifts for yourself. What would be a tip or a two or whatever? What would you say to somebody?
I remember a mentor said to me one time, we don't get dreams that aren't ours. And I feel like that just always stuck with me in the sense that, these things that feel shiny or sparkly or fun to us, and they have since we were little, like those nudges, those things that appeal to us, and there's things that we haven't been able to let go of, like they are right. And even if you're, not coming from this rags to riches place, whatever, but let's just say like I don't know, you've always been doing well, but you really actually have always dreamt of building your business in California, whatever it is, like decide already. Have
Mm,
that moment where you're like, you know what? I'm done thinking about this. I'm done saying that this would be nice. I'm done acting like I'm going to live forever. Like, I want to have this line in the sand moment where I truly choose what it is that I want. And then I go all in on that thing. And this is just coming up for me to say, but I was having a conversation with a client the other day where she had a client who she felt was like not getting clients, but from this place of like, I kind of keep trying and I kind of keep putting myself out there and nothing's happening, and not really understanding why. And my question was, does this person like either come from money or have a full-time job or have a spouse that makes money? Because I find that those people respectfully are the ones who so often have a really hard time getting things moving because they don't have to. And so, not to say that you, again, need to be broke or need to be whatever to get your business moving, but there does have to be this moment where it is this line in the sand where I'm going to act like this is do or die. I'm going to
mhm.
act as though I have no other choice, because otherwise, if we just stay comfortable in that comfortable space, I find that nothing really shifts. And I think anyone can have that, again, line in the sand. I like to call it a fuck this shit moment, where things are changing and the decision is made and then you're acting accordingly.
Yeah. I love the fuck this shit moment because I feel like you have control over that. You can decide after listening to this episode. You can decide Thursday at 2:08. You can decide after a breakup. You can decide at any time that this is my fuck this shit moment and
Yep.
we're going to make some changes.
Yep.
I think it's the same kind of mentality that, coaches in the fitness space or the weight loss space or whatever, January 1 space, where everyone's like, it's the time, make that commitment. When in reality, like you can do that at any time.
Totally. I love a fresh start, right? Like I love a reason to, like you said, January 1st. You can literally January 1st your life like any day of the year.
Yeah. I think one of the things too when it comes to that like fuck this shit moment is you have to actually have some introspection. And a lot of us don't. A lot of us might feel like we want to make a change, but we won't tap into why, right? Until something big happens, right? Or if we get that motivation to have that fuck this shit moment. What are there any tools that you recommend or use yourself or share with your peers and community about looking within? And maybe you don't call it introspection, but like getting into that authenticity space to see and feel that for yourself.
This might not answer that question exactly, but the thing that I want to say here is that most people are running away from something instead of loving themselves enough to take a stand for what they actually want.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it is normally that fuck this shit moment for a lot of people, because like, I'm done being broke, I'm done being overweight, I'm done being in this relationship. And that's a really great motivator, right? When we just get so fed up. But in an ideal world, I would, and the rest of the women and humans of the world would be that in touch with themselves and that honest with themselves around what they want and that they're worthy of that thing, and that you don't have to have the rock bottom moment to change things, because you're worth and you're worthy and deserving of what you ultimately desire right now in this moment, and we can start working towards it.
Yeah. I was listening to another show, and it was Ed Milet's show, and he had an episode about, like, I think it was the 14 reasons why you might not love yourself, or something around loving yourself. And one of the things was like, if you aren't doing some of these things, taking care of your weight, taking care of your health, taking care of, you know, looking within and being authentic to you, then it is a sign that you aren't loving yourself, right? I thought that was just really, like, kind of same path, right? Like, this idea of loving, we self-sacrifice, especially as women. We self-sacrifice, especially as entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, you know, and I'm not advocating for the self-sacrifice, but I see it happen time and time again. And that's one of the big things that I feel like I've gleaned from you as well, is putting aside that self-sacrifice, and really honoring you, what you need, what you want to do in your business, what's intentional for you. And I feel like this is still very mindset, but I think it rolls us kind of into this offer creation and even sales world that you speak so great, like, beautifully on. So tell me a little bit about what how authenticity matters, why authenticity matters when it comes to sales and creating offers.
I think that especially with what most people, again, they're listening to this and in our world do, we're not opening up, pizza shops. We're not selling these inanimate objects. We are, at the end of the day, selling ourselves. How in the world do I expect to show up on something like this, on a live video, on a whatever, Insta story, so on and so forth, and sell effectively something that I don't believe in at a price point that I don't believe in, something that I don't really want to do? Am I saying that it won't sell if I come from that place? No, I've made money when I actually didn't want to make it before, right? From force, from, taking enough effort, blah, blah, blah. But do I know that I make way more money when I actually want to do the thing, or I'm speaking to it because I'm genuinely excited about it? Absolutely. So it sounds like, again, fluffy, but it doesn't feel fluffy to me. That just purpose and intention has to come first, and that inner alignment, that inner authenticity of, like, desire. And I think if I was at the beginning of this journey and I had heard that piece of advice, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds nice, whatever. But now it's easier because I've lived it. I've got, years and years of receipts of an experience of the fact that when I don't want to do something, when I'm not speaking to it from a place of, like, true clarity and purpose and passion, it just does not work as well. So I might as well get excited about the thing. I might as well feel good about it. And I might as well let it be as aligned as possible to who I actually am as a human being.
I think the big takeaway that listeners need to have, and I know I need to continue to remind myself, and that you learned, is you can make the thing and sell the thing and be you and still have people buy and have people buy. Like, I think we worry that the way you be a coach, the way you run an agency, the way you sell the thing, that there's molds, maybe there's a few, but we have to pick one and fit into it, instead of saying we can truly do this. There's enough people in the world that we can truly do this exactly being us and be successful. But I feel like we don't believe it. We can hear it all the time, and we somehow just, maybe we even try it once and it works and we're like, ooh, that actually did work. But then we falter back to the molds. What have you found that works for you, that either you do for yourself or that you coach your community to not fall back into the mold?
I like to say that we have to hold space for the unicorns, because it's a very easy thing to start launching something, and the stories that are going to come up are, nobody's going to pay this amount of money, or you're trying to get a new VA. Well, nobody's going to be able to do it like this well, blah, blah, blah. And if you could just sit there and really get your energy and belief behind the idea that, like, no, this unicorn that wants this exact type of format of program, that wants to pay this price, this is going to be perfect for them, so on and so forth. If you can get your energy behind just believing there's one person out there and you take a stand for them, that changes everything. everything. And, you know, we all hear the ideal client stuff and everyone's bored to tears by it. And I don't really give a shit because it's one of the most important things that anybody needs to understand. But, you know, if let's just say it a different way, you know, I'm dating, I want to find a partner or somebody that I'm in love with. I have to be in this place where like all of the qualities of a man, I have to believe that person is out there. I have to show up in life, in the world, and on dates, believing that that vision of what I want to come true is there. Otherwise, it's going to make me change. I'm going to show up differently. I'm going to be a different person. And so, you know, all of us or a lot of people act like they need a million clients a month, and it's not the case, right? Like you get to be the unicorn that you wish existed and hold space for the fact that somebody else out there is looking for you. And when you give yourself permission to do that, almost every single time, in my experience, that person shows up randomly. That's the evidence, that's the receipt you need as confirmation to keep doing it.
Yeah. I think it goes right in line with what I hear. It's the same thing about not wanting to fitting into mold, wanting to not be yourself because you feel like this is how you should be. The same thing is true when it comes to audiences. We're like, well, I want to be the Amazon of the world. I want to be the Amazon of coaches or the Amazon of agencies or the Amazon of real estate agents, right? I want everyone. But in reality, I know from you that the same unicorn principle applies to who we're talking to. And so I really want to dive into that because it's one of the things that it's the hardest thing to trust, but when you do it, it works so well. So I want to talk about why a business and what tools and tips and tricks does they have up their sleeves or take notes on. And I feel horrible, but I have to let Pepper out. Last time I didn't let her out, she threw up. So I have to let her out. But let's take a pregnant pause. And what I want you to talk about, and you can talk about why I stand up. Why should we just talk to one person? And can we really believe that? Can we really trust that? So that we can talk to one person in our marketing, one person on our sales page, one person when we show up on Instagram, and that we're not siloing the rest, right? How does that work?
I think what comes up for people when you say something like talk to one person, it feels limiting. You feel like you have FOMO. Well, I'm missing out on this person. I'm missing out on this person. And what I'm always trying to, I was going to say, but what I'm trying to scream at people over and over again is that it's not about that one person. It's about if I am envisioning my client, Christy, I've been working with her forever. I adore her. She's a perfect human being in so many different ways in my eyes, and I would work with a million of her. If I can sit there and write a sales page and do my best to activate Christy, to speak to what she's struggling with, to know her personally, to really go in depth in that way, I not only know her really well, but I also know she's happy and ready and willing to pay me. I know that I'm her unicorn. So I can show up and speak to her in this unapologetic way, knowing my shit, owning how I want to say things. I'm not going to sit there and be afraid to curse because Christy's fine with cursing. You know, all the things that I want to do and say, she gives me space and permission to do. And so I show up as my best self. And so that's a situation where when I'm doing that, speaking to Christy, you know, Jessica over here, she might have a slightly different business model, but she's really attracted to my confidence, the way that I'm saying things unapologetically. And so she might buy the program or she might say, you know, I'm not sure this is for me. Can we speak to this? And have that conversation. You attract more people that are not your ideal client when you are giving yourself permission to speak to that one ideal client, because then you are in your power. When you are clear, you are powerful. So if you are sitting there speaking to Susie one day, Jessica one day, Christy one day, then so on and so forth, how the fuck do you expect to come across clearly and powerfully to anybody? I've compared it to literally attempting to give like a keynote speech, and the first 10 minutes is in Chinese, the next 10 minutes is in German, so on and so forth. Like, how can you possibly connect with anybody powerfully when you are shape-shifting what you're saying and how you're saying it every 10 seconds? It literally makes no sense. And so again, like the FOMO thing is infuriating to me. I understand why people do it, but it drives me crazy because I'm like, I swear to God, all of you would be making 5 times as much money if you would just talk to one person. But again, people are, you know, afraid to kind of do that.
It's funny that we are afraid to do that though, because really, what do we have to lose?
Well, as you say that, it's like if I talk to that one person and then I get rejected by that one person, and then I also wasn't speaking to all the other people, That is a scary thing. But in my experience, the rejection doesn't happen when you step into your power.
Exactly. And when you say step into your power, we also are talking about authenticity,
Right?
right?
I want you to say things with your chest. I want you to say things that you mean, right? Like I'm going to own the hell out of the fact that I'm selling this $1 million program because I'm not going to worry about Jessica not thinking it's worth that price point because I'm speaking to Christy and Christy's ready and willing to pay that amount of money for it. Everything is being measured up against the right person instead of all the wrong people.
Yeah. What for the people who are listening who are like, okay, I need to show up. I need to be me. I need to stop hiding. I need to stop. I'm hearing a lot on masking. Maybe it's my algorithm. I don't know. But like this whole idea of masking is coming out. Or at least it's being served to me a lot. I need to take off the mask. And I really need to just figure out my like fuck this shit moment and just show up and be me. How have you I know one answer you could give me, and I don't know if you're going to go there, but what is something that you've done for yourself to help you get into that?
Drink some prosecco. I'm half kidding, but like, if you have a couple drinks or whatever your fun of choice is, a lot of times we relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're going to dance, when you're going to be a little bit looser. And so I'm not suggesting that everybody goes around and gets wasted, but it's just interesting. I always say, like, I am my best self after one glass of prosecco, like not more than that, but one gives me this little bit of like the edge is taken off and I'm not afraid to say anything, do anything. Like I'm just a little bit more chill. And again, so I'm not advocating that everybody has to drink for this, but what I am saying is that, like, if you've ever had those moments where you do feel fully like yourself for whatever reason, like try to go back to that memory, try to go back to how that actually felt. So, if I'm sitting there even writing a sales page, I'm not going to do it in between 50 other calls where I'm stressed or, whatever. I'm going to give myself permission to go up to my rooftop, meditate for a little bit, journal for a little bit, get into the vibes of like, I'm in my best energy right now. I'm giving myself permission to say what I genuinely believe, what I would say to a friend if they were sitting right in front of me. And I think that a lot of people don't give themselves the space to do that. And that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it goes right back to, well, one, the space, but at least for myself, and I've got to imagine a lot of other, especially women and entrepreneurs, is we go right into the being a wife, being a mom, being something for somebody else. And so that time to carve out for ourselves isn't always there. No matter if you're single, married, whatever, like, right? We fill our busy. I always say that oh my gosh, I always say the thing I can't always say right now. Oh, we always fill ourselves with our own busy, right? Someone's like, "Oh, you're so busy." And I'll look at the same person and be like, "What? You're busy." Because everyone's idea of what busy is just essentially filling that void sometimes.
Right.
So I think it's such great advice. It's to just, dare I say, slow down to get ahead.
I think, a lot of us, I had this moment a few years ago, and I can admit as I say this out loud that I haven't been as great about this lately, but I refuse to be somebody who can't sit still with themselves.
Mm.
I refuse to like be somebody who has to be on their phone or has to be watching TV or has to be distracted. And I think that there are very few among us that actually could just sit with themselves for 30 minutes, no distractions, whatever. And when we don't, like, if we can't do that, I think that's a real problem. And so, I'll see people who don't have time, quote unquote, to like really, think through what they're going to put in this program as if they had to launch it today. And I'm like, you could have waited 24 hours. Like you didn't have to launch this today. Like you're just used to not sitting still. You're used to not just rushing to the next thing. And, this is something that I wouldn't have understood or embraced if I hadn't experienced what I've experienced. But giving myself an extra 24 hours and more spaciousness, it always makes me more money.
Yeah.
Being able to come back to myself versus just rushing to do the thing. And again, with what all of us do, it's not about just doing the thing, it's who you're being as you do the thing.
Yeah. I think we do. We put these arbitrary, like, oh, well, Monday is Monday. So, like, we better do it on a Monday because, it's the beginning of the week, or January 1st is January 1st.
Right.
But really, in reality, like, what is that for anyone, for ourselves, for our clients, for anyone? It's arbitrary.
Yeah.
So now that we've tapped into this authenticity, this mindset, this kind of really coming into your own and realizing that that's okay and that there's space for it and that you absolutely can be successful in that, which I know it sounds silly, but I don't think enough of us truly believe that. How does that, how do we then shape shift that, or not shape shift that, own the shit out of that and start to shape the things we're selling, the things we're offering, the programs, the services, the things we're doing? How do we bleed that in if we're just barely figuring this out for ourselves? Like, what are some of the earliest tips that you started using for yourself to be like, okay, well, now that I feel this and believe this and want to admit this out there, how do I work it into what I can give to others?
I feel like it sounds overly simple, but it's you start and then you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's trying to jump from phase 1 to phase 50 overnight. Like, how do I become wildly confident about 50 different offers tomorrow? And it's like, you're not fucking going to. Start with that first thing. Again, I've shared a million times where back in 2017, that first $97 offer that I put out there, it was something where I literally thought of it a few hours beforehand. I thought it was great. I didn't know that it was going to sell. Like, I felt good about it, but I'm not a psychic. Like, I had no idea if it was going to sell or if it wasn't. But then putting that out there and having so many sales come in immediately, like 5, 10, like I couldn't believe it. I had never been paid like that before in my entire life. Oh, okay. Echoing.
It said that we were, but I think we're fine.
Okay, I heard it. I hear it.
Oh, it's still?
Yeah.
That's fun. What did we say off air? We said that technology is no fun. Switch my,
Good old technology.
and then I'm going to switch. Echo? Are we still echoing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
No, it's better.
Is it better? Okay.
Yeah.
Fun.
There's a delay, but I think we're okay.
I don't think it'll show up on the recording.
Okay. Selling that for the first time. And then I think what most people will do is they're on to the next thing. Like they forget to recognize the magic that they just created, and they're on to the next thing instead of listening. I'm like, if you're actually in it with your people, if you're paying attention, they're telling you everything you need to know about what it is that they need, what it is that they desire. And so rather than you being so obsessed with the next goal for yourself, pay some attention, actually feel into, again, what you're experiencing and what you're feeling from them, and then take that knowledge and create the next thing and parlay it into the next thing. And I think that like that in and of itself is momentum.
Yeah. I'm thinking of what I always have to say to myself, which is progress over perfection, because I am a perfection enthusiast and I am the one who's like, I want to be at the 50 now, not the 1. Like, I can't settle. I don't feel good with a 1, 2, 3, right? I'm like, can we at least do a 1, 25, 50? Like, can I skip those steps for some reason? There's got to be some sort of human nature thing that we just want to be at the end quicker, which is so strange, right?
Well, it's the unknown, right? Like, I want to make millions and millions of dollars, and I know that I will, but I want to be, struck by lightning and told by God in this moment that yes, Sarah, absolutely. I saw this really good video on TikTok the other day, which is a different topic, but some girl posted a video of they were on the beach, and it was her son and her husband, and she just wrote like 27-year-old Sarah, whatever her name was, would be so much calmer if she knew that this was her future. And if we all knew that we were going to get what we ultimately wanted, I think we'd calm the hell down and be okay with it being a little bit slower. But we doubt and we're unsure, which is, again, human nature. But I also think it can create a lot of misery.
Well, I also think we don't stop and slow down enough to actually recognize what beach moments we've actually created for ourselves.
Totally.
Every Monday in the summer, I go and I work. I bring my computer, but Pepper and I go to my mother-in-law's. She has a pool. And we spend the whole Monday at grandma's working and swimming. And I probably work at 25% capacity those Mondays because I've got my mother-in-law there and I'm making sure my dog doesn't drown. And but then sometimes I sit there on those Mondays and I'm like, I just in this enhanced mode, this like hyper, like, oh my gosh, I should be doing, instead of just accepting that, listen, Mondays, I'm going to be about a 25% present on the work side of things and recognize this is my beach day.
Yeah.
Like I get to enjoy that and like create that space and make it okay. And I don't think enough of us recognize all the little beach moments we get.
No, but I mean, who among us was actually taught to enjoy those things? It was always about, the overachieving and what
Uh-huh.
can come next. And so it's a whole lot of uh like just reprogramming of our brains and our belief systems.
Yeah. Okay, I don't want you to give away the farm, but you have so many tools. Like you have so many great acronyms, visuals, physical tools when I'm staring at in my face, physical things. You have so many tools. And so I want to respect that you work hard on giving those tools away in the way that you do. So can you give us a tool on whether it's mindset, showing up, offer creation, sales? Like what was the tool that we can kind of listen in on to help our businesses?
Well, the thing that's coming up for me to say is, my podcast, my kind of philosophy with so much of this is you're fucking welcome. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I've heard people call me like a sales expert. And I don't feel like a sales expert at all, because when I think about a sales expert, I think of somebody who is really good at, I guess I shouldn't use the word manipulation, but it feels like, convincing people to buy or overcoming objections or just kind of like this almost sneaky thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just never been my intention or how I've viewed it. You're fucking welcome to me comes down to number one, really believing in the product that you're selling, right? Believing wholeheartedly every single piece of it. I believe in everything that's being delivered. I believe in the price point. I believe in the purpose of it, so on and so forth, because like none of us have any business showing up attempting to sell something that we don't believe in ourselves. And I see it all the time. I work with honest women who, they're not out to screw other people, but they're in such a rush to get a result for themselves that they, like we've been talking about, they forget to take the time to really slow down and create something from a true place of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding that that is part one of everything when it comes to confidence, right? And if we're going to look at it in a different view, you can't walk into a date expecting somebody else to like you, have it go well, if you don't love the product that you're selling, right? Like we have to be in love with the thing that we are showing up with first and foremost. And trust me, in my personal life, that has not come as easily, but I understood it via business. So I was able to start translating it, personally. But then the second part of that is just that authentic enthusiasm of sharing it with people. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
don't view myself as a sales expert that I'm like, oh, I have to say it in this, order or whatever. I just truly speak to why I created this thing, why I believe it's great, what I think it's going to do for you. And I'm not worried about getting it right. And, again, if we're going to use that same example of dating, like we go into dates or, pitching, all of it, same thing, and we're saying things and we're worried about how it's received. Oh, I don't want this person to think this about me. I don't want them to be intimidated by the fact that I'm an entrepreneur. Like, fuck that. It's my truth. So I'm going to share it openly and honestly and authentically. And for the right person, it's okay. And the wrong person, it's not. Same thing with obviously selling an offer. I'm going to share the price. I'm going to share how it's formatted. My ideal clients are aligned with what it is that how it is structured. Otherwise, they're not my ideal clients. And so those two pieces, right? Like being calm and confident about what it is you're selling in the first place, and then just sharing it with genuine enthusiasm. I feel like that solves a lot of problems when it comes to selling yourself in any capacity.
Yeah. Well, and the tool here, just for people who don't know your world, is the words "you're fucking welcome," is to show up and say, "Listen, I'm selling this fruit juice, and it's so bomb. It's fresh squeeze. It's delicious, and I'm going to tell you all about it. You're fucking welcome. Cheers!
Yeah.
Like cheers to that."
Yeah.
And it's about having that confidence of just being able to say, "You're welcome to hear this. Like this is my gift to you. Whether you do anything with it, I'm not going to strip myself from giving it away because I know and believe it's so great." And
Yeah.
so to me, it's a tool, it's a mantra, it's power, right? And maybe it's crass for some people, but to me, like it's powerful. Like there's power in that.
It's a gut check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm about to launch something, sell something, and or email something, people ask me all the time, like, am I going to annoy my audience? Like, do you feel you're fucking welcome about it? And then if you don't, what needs to be adjusted and shifted here so that you truly can believe that you are gifting people something by offering them something?
Yeah. Well, that's a phenomenal tip. I sometimes also share, it's the same idea, but it's also that by not sharing, by not showing up with your fruit juice, by not giving your offer, you're worried about being salesy, or you're worried about being obnoxious, or that people who don't want to hear it are having to hear it. But in reality, like if you don't, you're actually being selfish by not giving that gift, that word to the people who need to hear it, who are waiting for you to hear it, for waiting for you to show up to hear it. So I think same ideas. Like you have a gift, you were given a gift. Don't be selfish by keeping it all to yourself. Like give it away.
And it's a full circle thing, right? Because I remember moments where I would sell things and they wouldn't sell. I was launching, and I remember one time just like nothing was selling, and I just paced around my apartment complex like at night over and over again. So I was like, I don't know what to do. And I always specifically remember that moment because so much of what I learned in that experience is poured into something like the 500K sales system, which is a signature program of mine. And so I'm creating that thing from this place of purpose. Like, what did Sara need? What would I have killed to get my hands on at that point? And so if I know so deeply that other people need it, then again, I'm robbing them of not. And I also, again, fully just believe in the purpose behind the thing itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that, oh, I did have it right in front of me a second ago, but I have a journal from you and it just says, you're fucking welcome right in the front of it. And it's just such a great, like I said, mantra, tool, however you want to find it, but finding that confidence behind what it is you're doing, life-changing.
Yeah.
And it's not just business life-changing. Like you said, you're using it, for example, for dating purposes, but just, showing up in a room and just having that mentality to me is just super powerful. And again, I know we're talking a lot about women and entrepreneurs. My listeners are all across the board, but I just feel like we often as women don't feel like we can show up confidently all the time, So, okay. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is another tool that I absolutely love of yours is half the time, so many people, and I don't even do social media, right? We do support with social, but that's not what we do here, right? But so many people come, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to say. I know I'm supposed to do social media. I hate social media, but I don't know how to do it or what to say, or I feel icky about it, right? There's all of these objections, and a lot of them are around simply not knowing how to show up. And so I want you to talk about some of the tools you have and some of the opportunities that listeners and anyone who are trying to get in this energy more and be in this space, what do you have for them to get involved with? Two-part question. I think you know where I'm going with this, though.
Well, I want to say that, again, if we're talking about people who have, service-oriented businesses or coaches and things like that, the idea that you don't know what to say is laughable, because then why are you doing what you do, right? And I don't think that you actually shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I'm just saying that you're not giving yourself permission to just say the thing. You're overthinking it. You're trying to get it right because, again, you became a coach, you became a graphic designer because you know what you're doing, right? So of course you have something to say. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If you know who you're showing up for, the ideas really come through for you, because if you're showing up from this place of purpose, and what do they really need to hear, and how can I share it authentically with them to shake them and make them understand this thing, the idea of what do I post, it's not really a question, right? Although, again, I do know where you're going with this. And so if you still feel like that, I created for myself years ago a system. I guess I'll call it the show up and blow up system. But back in 2017, like I've shared, like I was dead broke, decided to start showing up every single day in my Facebook group, doing live videos. And at that time, we were also posting a ton, but I didn't really have a system for it. And I got to this point where I was feeling like I was never off. It was just like, what more can I post? What more can I post? What more can I post? Which was exhausting. And I knew I had to kind of like compartmentalize and create some rules for myself. And so in a nutshell, I view marketing, for the most part, selling ourselves online, is it's really just giving and asking, right? We give to our audience, we ask for the sale. We give to our audience, we ask for the sale. And so I created the sales system for myself where I'm like, okay, we're going to post, 2 gives a day, 2 give and asks, 2 asks, which are, they're kind of self-explanatory. I could go into it in more depth, but basically value, just straight up value plus a call to action, or just a call to action, and deciding, how many am I going to post a day, and sticking to that system, because I believe so much magic comes from just deciding and doing versus getting it right. And so in that system, I had, created again the categories. And so I created this really cool card deck. It comes with 4 different card decks with 40 prompts each that you can just pull randomly to eliminate decision fatigue. And it gives you a prompt of, a give and ask, whatever, as well as engage. And so that's a really helpful tool that I'm really proud of. And then we also have the Show Up and Blow Up Collective, which is not only around that, but really how to show up online and how to make and create momentum really quickly. And that comes with, weekly group coaching calls, which I feel are really valuable. The whole Show Up and Blow Up training, lots of other things. And so that to me is a really great tool for people who are starting on this journey of showing up and selling themselves.
I again geeking out. So I have the card. So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not listening, go jump over to YouTube. But so I actually bought this like little holder so I can have my card deck, and I just shuffled them, which took a lot, by the way. This took so much of my perfection enthusiasm. Like I had to take it out to shuffle these. But I keep them right in front of my face because one of the hardest things for me as all of the things that I title myself as, but I am one who will self-sacrifice all the time. I'll wake up and instead of going and doing something for me that is truly selfless by giving what we do to others, I will first check an email. I will first make sure there's no fires that need to be put out. I will first do something else besides this. And so having something, and I'm encouraging you all, go check out these cards. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'll try to remember to put it in the link. I'll put it in the show notes to give you some links, or it's right on Sarah's website. Super easy. It says card deck. Okay. Can't get any easier than that. But having something as a physical reminder and visual to show up for yourself instead of diving into your business and not working on your business or whatever way you want to say that, has been super helpful for me. And if, to your point, right, I could sit here and go through 20 cards, but instead I just, slow and steady wins the race. Let's just rotate 1 card a day. Let's just commit to that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been so helpful. So for anyone listening to the show, wanting to take something tangible, that is your tangible takeaway. Go to the site, buy the card decks. I promise you, you will not regret it. They're super incredibly helpful. And no matter what you do, you can apply these prompts to your world. Like I've tested the theory. I've thought about the theory. Like it works.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, by the way, sharing that, having that, and creating it for us to consume. And then the collective, again, I'm just kind of like raving about some of the things you've created, but I want listeners to know the collective, I take advantage of maybe 20% of all of the freaking amazing shit that comes out of that group. And it's not because I don't think the other 80% is important. I just, prioritization, like I'm just, again, self-sacrificing. But it is life-changing to be in this kind of energy, like what we're getting today from this episode, from others, having people ask the quote unquote stupid question that we feel like we can't ask, that all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm not the only one thinking, feeling that, whatever it might be. It's been amazing. And so I just thank you for having that group. And it's also available on the website, right? Super easy to get to. So, yeah. So thank you. Thank you for all of that. Okay. To wrap up, is there any, like, if there's so many to take away, but if there's nothing else that someone's grasped onto and they're like really looking for like that one juicy orange that they've just got to smuggle out of California from you, like what one last like parting thing would you want listeners to take away from you?
I feel like I just want, in my own business, I've done those brand exercises, right? And I was pushed to pick the, one word problem that I solve. And I picked 2, there's a hyphen. But I feel like my thing is solving self-abandonment. And I just really sincerely feel like if we are going to start our own businesses, it's not going to be rainbows and butterflies every single day. Trust me, it's not. But if we're not doing things that we actually want to do, working with people who actually energize us, saying what we really actually believe, this is not easy. Like this is torture sometimes.
Yeah.
And so if I was building somebody else's dream with this same kind of torture, like I wouldn't make it. And so just more permission for women to really, and everybody, of course, but I think again, women have a harder time with it, just genuinely honoring what is true in terms of what you want, and not so easily talking yourself out of the idea that it can't be that way. Because in my experience, there's always a circumstance. You can always create the circumstance that you want. There's lots of people out there who need you. There's lots of different methods and ways and things. So you might as well bet on yourself and bet on what you actually want, and at least try. Right? I always say that with like relationships. Whatever, long story, but I was talking to this person one time, and I was saying like all the things I wanted in a relationship. Like this is a few years ago, and I was talking to women. I was explaining this relationship, like explaining the guy that I would want. And they talked to me like, oh, that's cute. Like, that's never going to happen. And I'm like, I know that it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to aim for the 9 and maybe get a 7, instead of like, oh, I don't think I can get that, so I'm going to aim for the 3. Like, well, why do we do that? So many of us do that. And so again, aim for the 10, like really honor what you want and fucking go after it and create it.
Yeah. And know that you can do that in so many places of your world.
Yeah. So many.
You don't want to do live videos, then stop doing live videos.
Stop doing them.
Yeah.
Like that is not a rule.
Yeah. Do business the way you want to do it. If you want to never be on social media because if you hate it, then there's so many other marketing tools.
There's a million other ones.
Yeah.
Honor what you don't want to do and then find another way. Don't just run away from what you don't want. Decide what you do.
Right. Yes, absolutely. This has been amazing. I really obviously I value so much of what you put out. So the fact that you came on to the show, giving listeners this, I want to make sure you guys go to sara-dann.com. All of the tools and tips and tricks and things that she shared that you can kind of consume from that perspective are there. It's really easy. And then, share this episode. So many tips that you can give to others. Share it. And thank you. I just appreciate your time so much today, Sara.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
All right, guys. Until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. I truly hope you got a lot of value out of this episode. So if you did, please rate, review, and share. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, whether a leader or an expert, please go to getvim.com/podcast and you will find our application page, or reach out to me directly and I can give you more information.